Vanakkam, Namaste or Sitaram, and welcome everyone again. Right, I am Tantra Child, and today we are going to look into a topic that is very much common among many of us, but do we truly understand what it is? Today's topic we are going to look into Japam. We are looking to doing when we do that repetition of names, right, and so forth, when we use malas and so forth. So in today's video, we are going to look into Japam, the procedures. We're looking at how to do what fingers we may use, what type of malas are there, what is significance of the different type of, are there places where one can do Japam and all different. There are so many things that are known, and there are so many things that are not known to many of us about performing Japam and the correct way, or if there is a strict particular way, or is there a lot of rules and regulation in doing such. There's a lot of misconception also, a lot of things that are not explained properly to people, and I wanted to make this video to explain as thoroughly as I could, as much as the research has led me to share with you the pros and cons of Japam. What is the significance? Are there doshas or problems or elements that hinders you when you're doing Japam? Uh, where in the scriptures are Japam mentioned so that one can reference and go to and so forth. And what does these references or scriptures say about that? What are the different types of malas and what they can use? Where can we do Japam? Where it will gain the siddhis? Are there pros and cons and everything things? So in this episode where we are dealing with Japam, I will try my best to break down as much as I could to explain as much there are in the scriptures, and as much I came across and I researched it and I pulled together to be able to do this video. So let us start off by what is Japam. Japam is the constant repetition of a word, a syllable, a name, a phrase, a prayer, or a mantra to bring the mind into a state of heightened concentration, stability, and devotion. In short, it is a sadhana by itself. Right? It is a sadhana by itself. We have, and we have come across in different Purans and different Gamas where Lord Shiva states and he's narrating where Homam or Hawan, where that kind of, seen that is high in the aspect of doing devotion, where Homam cannot be done or Hawan can be done. The next essential thing that a devotee or bhakta can do is Japam, and that is essential also. We will hear tonight where in different aspects like the Gita, the Devi Bhagavatam and so forth, where they mention Japam and so forth. Right? So you have that aspect of the, and Japam is mentioned in many different scriptures, many different scriptures. We have the Kalika Puran, we have the Dhamma Tantra, we have the Kulana Nava Tantra. It is mentioned in the Devi Bhagavatam, it is mentioned in the Sri Puran and so forth, to where doing Japam, and they give mantras within the different discourse and the different stories where these are mentioned, where Japam is mentioned to do. So let us look into more depth. So Hindu scriptures recognize the significance of Japam as almost like a sacrifice or something essential in doing, just like how you do any other particular ritual that is held in high esteem. You know, so there it is. We have in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna stated that he is Om, and where sacrifices are concerned, he is the Japam. We see in the Devi Bhagavatam that Japam is the best purifier and healer, right? To heal and purify the mind and the body. So you have those aspects. So, we have that in the Manusmriti, it is declared declared that a spiritual person cannot get liberated unless one performs Japam. Right? So we have that enforcement once more again, where Japam is concerned and so forth, and how essential it is in doing Japam. So it is not just, just reciting or singing or something. It has significance and it should be given reverence. And most of the times, or some of the times I should be saying, standing corrected here, some of the times a lot of us are not told or taught the reverence of Japam and doing Japam. And there it is, we lose the cities, we lose the darshan that we should be gaining and that we should more be able to acquire by not being taught properly how to go about doing Japam. What are the rituals? What are the pros and cons of doing that? And I hope in tonight, I hope into this discourse, I hope in this as this video, I could shed light on some of those things that you may have not known and that you can add to what you're already doing. And right, to how I thought, I'm not going to criticize anyone here to how they are doing, but if it is something that I have said that could help you modify or amend what you have done or what you are doing to be able to get you to receive the darshan, then it is worth it. All right. So we know that the significance of Japam is for healing purposes. It is there for enlightenment. It helps you with your enlightenment. Some people will go as far as it aids you with your doing aspect of chakras. In Devi worship, it also helps you when you're doing Nag devotion to help you with your Kundalini and so forth. So it is essential and different, and there it is in different Purans, Agamas, Sastras, and so forth. There it is. Japam is part or is an essential aspect of sadhanas besides doing hawans. Japam is an essential part of doing many great strict sadhanas and simple sadhanas. Nevertheless, it's a deal. It is an essential aspect. It is not something fly by night or just something. Oh, yes, yeah, I could just recite the name of the Lord. No, it has its merits, and when it is done properly, you gain the siddhi. All right, you gain the siddhi of it, of doing that. So so you have that aspect. Many people will ask, well, how does one perform Japam? Well, okay, there are different ways one could perform Japam. They are counted, but let us see what scripture has to say on what or where it is given that life, that's given that life and so forth. All right. So there it is. Um, how to practice Jaapam? Well, to practice Jaapam, one will need. You can do two ways, or more or less there are different ways of doing Jaapam, and I think that is best where I could more or less go first before I could go to the other aspect of teaching. All right. So there are types of Jaapam. So let us look at the different types, and then we'll go to where rules and regulation kicks into play. So based on the type of Japam you want to do, there are different categories, different type of mantras, whatever. Different sadhanas would require you to do it in different ways, and there are different categories of it. So you have Vashika Japam, which deals with reciting the mantra aloud, right? Where you're saying it aloud, right? Like how I'm speaking now, I'm speaking aloud in a sense, or speaking with a projected voice to the microphone. So that is that aspect. Then you have Upan Sujapa. Upan Sujapa is when you're speaking softly, very much softly, where you had to come someone had to come very close to hear you what you're saying. Right? You have Manasik or Manas Japam, where you're dealing with the mind. There your repetition is within the mind, and that in itself is very tedious to do, however, for some of you, because why? They are different. You have some people have expressed when they're doing Japam, they have problems. Not many cannot be able to sit properly, concentrate, and so forth. And we will go into that because there are three major type of dosh or problems one can experience in doing, and we'll look into the different doshas that one experience in doing Japam or meditation. So we had Vashika Japa, we had Upansus Japa, and we have Manas Japa. Right? These are the three most major or most known Jaapam or Japa aspects or types that one can do, right? And so forth, right? So, also, right, so let us go from that aspect. Let us look at the dosha that I spoke about just a few seconds ago, right? And there are three major types of dosha, and we will look at them today. And the three types of dosha is kapha, is vata, and pitta, right? So there it is. Kapha each one is connected to an element. So kapha is connected to the earth element, which means up to that point that dosha, when you sit or getting ready to do japam, there it is, you fall asleep. You're not able to concentrate because sleepiness or paralysis kicks in or tiredness kicks in. So that is a dosha when you're going to do devotion and whatever, sleepiness kicks in, whatever, and that's a dosha that's connected with the element of the earth. Then you have Pitta. Pitta is connected to the element of fire, and that is where when you sit, if you're sitting in lotus position or any position to do japam, you cannot stay in that position for long. You're always fidgeting. You're always moving because the body can't stay still. Then you have vata. Vata is with the air element. That particular dosha deals with the mind. The mind is always racing. It is always everywhere else but concentrating on what needs to be done. So you have those elements also you have those elements or those doshas. Now, based on what aspect of Hinduism that you walk, be it Vaishnava, Shivat, Shakta, or so forth, there it is your Pusari, your Pujari, your Pandit, your Guru would advise different sadhanas, different types of devotion, different aspects of japam. For instance, one would may advise, let's say Vaishnava, they would advise doing um, Ganapati Japam to help remove these particular doshas and calm them down. Right? In Shakta, one would ask with doing what Mona say to do advise doing Sangli Karapa. Karapa, we know there are aspects of Karapa that deal also with mental control. So you have that and body control. In Shivat, one may advise to doing Bridava, to holding, to control, and so forth, to stand firm and defend that aspect. So you have different aspects would give those advice to do different sadhanas or different to do different japam to help with the doshas that you may be facing. So you have that an aspect also. All right. So let us look into the all right, let us look into the different type of malas. From the different mala, we will go into different aspects. So there are different type of malas, and each mala has a significance. All right, each mala has a particular significance. It has different parts in it, also different aspects, all right, and so forth. So the different types of malas, and if I can find my notes here, that goes into that particular detail. All right, different. Right. So you have different types of malas that can be used. The most common to most of us would be a Rudra B mala. This is the most common of all malas that people know when they go to purchase a mala. So it would be, this is what you call a Rudra B mala. Then your second mala that some people may have also would be a Tulsi, made out of the stems or made out of the branches of the tulsi tree. Now, based on the size, also some makers of malas would also shave the wood in or shape it into that orb or that circle or that bead, similar to like what this is, shape it like this to be easier to pull or something like that. So you have that aspect. Your next one would be tulsi. This will be more or less lotus seed. Right? So you have a lotus seed mala. A next aspect also of malas would be made out of crystals and quartz. Um, Out of that, also um, you have what we may call a skull mala. Now, skull mala is not made out of bones necessarily to say. This might be made out of a powder and a resin, right? And then put into these molds to give you these particular skull shape and so forth. Um, you have those. You have sandalwood. They will use the sandalwood and shape it into beads also. You have corals, you have pearls, you have shells, and then you have out made of metals like gold, silver, and brass. You have malas made out of those also, and each one has a significance in it. All right. So before I go into the significance, let me look at the parts. Now, a mala is most people say is made up of 108 bead, and that is part true. If you're not checking this particular bead, which is called the sumuru bead or the pendant bead, yes, because from this bead here, the first bead, going all the way around till you come to this, it will be 108 bead. If you're not checking this one, yes, that is where. But if you're checking the pendant bead, it's actually 109. Now, malas don't always come in 109. They can come in less numbers. It could come in a half of 108. It could come as far as 27 also. It could come as a number of 27. Malas are mainly used for maintaining count in that aspect. But also malas in the use of doing Jaapam can be charged with the energy that you cultivate to be used as I say to be used as a protection, to use as a raksha, right? To use as what we locally call a tabij or a guard. Once it is energized with the energy of doing Jaapam and whatever, you have that. So you have that aspect of, and also you have that aspect. So let us look at which particular mala are using certain things. So Tulsi mala, right, are best suited for those or believers of Lord Vishnu, of Lord Ram, Krishna, or Hanuman. So, or even Narasimha, and half human, half man, half lion avatar of Lord Vishnu. You can use Tulsi Mala for doing in their worship, for doing their sadhanas, right? There it is. You can use for Shantikam or Peacekam, you use more or less pearl or coral, right? Pearl or coral malas. There it is in coral. You will use crystals, right? If my memory serves me correct from what I'm seeing here, right? You use the most common bead or the most powerful of all, most common to use, which you use in most sadhanas, would be the Rudra bead. It would be the Rudra bead that you will use in most sadhanas. This is more potent than silver and gold and so forth. This will more or less definitely, overtake much other time. But each mala has an aspect. Now you will notice that I didn't mention the skull mala and I did not mention the lotus seeds mala, and those are aspect of tantric worship, more tantric nature, not so much rajasic or sattvic nature of doing sadhanas and so forth, where these are used. These are more used in tantric nature, which I will not go into detail because I do not want people utilizing. For those who are doing, who do tantric worship, whatever, you will understand these type of what they are used for and so forth, and you use them for the different sadhanas within tantric worship. All power to you, but I will not mention them here on my videos because I don't want people who are not at that level, who don't have a guru, and people to guide them properly how and when and why and so forth to utilize these malas and use mantras with them and open doors that they may not be able to close, or bring around deities and different aspects that they do not know how to pacify. So if you notice that I didn't mention the skull mala and so forth, it's because I am omitting that particular knowledge, and I do apologize if people wanted that, but I can't and I won't do that up to that point. So you have that aspect of where and different parts and the types of malas. Now let me look at the different places that one can do japam. There are places prescribed, and there it is in different Purans, different Agamas, different Tantras, and so forth. There it is mentioned, right, where one can go to do Japam that is beneficial and that brings about different cities or different darshan, which is more or less gifts and powers. So there it is. We have um, Where, all right. So yeah. So we have places like a flower garden. You can go in a flowers garden. You can go in depths of a thick forest, which is very quiet, very peaceful. You have holy places, places of pilgrimage. You can go to holy places, caves and mountains, right? The shadow of a peepal tree or a bilva tree, cave under the root of a bilva tree, the banks of a river, near a pond or a stream. So where they explain, you can go places that is very peaceful, very quiet, very serene, and that helps you to calm down, helps you to concentrate, and sets you in that mood of peacefulness that you can meditate, you can do your job with great succession and so forth. So you have those different places. You also have different asanas, which is seats in different tantras and so forth. They mention the different seats that one can sit upon. It is recommended that one doesn't sit on the bare floor to do, because when you're doing japam, you're cultivating energy. And if you sit on the bare floor, even though you're clothed, the energy will go straight through you and into Ma, into Bhumi Devi, into Dharti Ma. So there it is. It's it's an advice that one sits upon a different types of mat or astan to do, and different astans also helps with you and your senses to be able to do and brings about different cities also once you can acquire the different asanas. So let us look into those also. So into doing different to sitting down different asanas and so forth. Right. So we have mats made of couscous. Couscous is very potent. It is used in many different sadhanas, not just used in what we use to do shroud or the antiesti rites or what is known as the funeral rites. It is used in different rites and so forth, different sadhanas and so forth. And one of the days I'll do the story of how we got couscous, right, and who was responsible for us having couscous here. All right, so you have the aspect of using couscous made into a mat, which is very potent. You have use of deer skin, which is more or less a black deer skin. You have tiger skin. We will see in many pictures Lord Shiva, Mahadev in that state of samadhi, meditative sleep, is sitting on a tiger skin doing japam, doing meditation. You have that. You have woolen rugs, not wooden, but wool, as in sheep wool. Wooden rug. You have silk sheet, and then you have our like wooden board or wooden table, make up like a pirha, what we may call those small seats that we sit to do puja, what we call a pirha. So you have that an aspect. All right. You will hear to say silk sheet, not cotton. So we use cotton to do different types, and they have cotton has a significance in different pujas also. It is prohibited. It is prohibited to use those things. Also to use there are different things of bamboo, stone, rotten wood, leaves. Right, it's prohibited too for doing sadhanas and performing, sitting on these things to do japam. So one there it is, they ask you to more or less use different asanas and different seats which helps you to maintain the creative energy that you cultivate by doing Japam. So it stays stores within you than go through you and into dirty matter. So you have that particular aspect also. So we have covered that, we covered the dosha, we covered the thing. Now let us go to the fingers. Now they are different, as different things. There are sometimes a little confusion because sometimes you see people using the middle finger. We know the thumb is for sure. The thumb is for sure. You use your right hand and you're using your thumb to pull the bead. Now we see some people pulling the bead, the mala over the middle finger, or what we call the wedding ring finger on the right hand side. And sometimes we may wonder, why do we do that, or which one is the actual one to use? Well, I can give you via scripture which one. And just a second here. Right, I think I had it somewhere here. Okay. Give me 1 minute there. I do apologize. Oh God. Here we are. So there it is in the Hari Bhakta Vilasa, in the Hari Bhakti Vilasa, right? And this is chapter 17, verse 114, right? Where it's stating, if you're while chanting Manasik Japa, silent in your mind, one should use the thumb and the one and ring finger. So we are looking at the thumb and the one and ring finger to do Japa. Right? If one is doing Upansu, which is softly, one can use the thumb and the middle ring finger. If you're speaking softly, you can use the thumb and the middle finger. Right? Now you would see people that states up to a point where they will state that the middle finger is connected to the heart, the ring finger is connected to the body. And we will go deeper into that aspect when I go into different scriptures from the Kulana Nava Tantra and the Dhamana Tantra and the Kalika Puran, where it gives more emphasis on how the fingers are chosen and so forth. So we'll go into that particular. So we have that in nature, right? Also, I wanted to share with you. Yes. So I wanted to share with you where in different various schools of Hinduism or different aspects of Hinduism, you have, be it Vaishnava, Hare Krishna, Shivit, Shakta, and so forth, right, etc., or we even go Agoric, which is tantric in nature. These different aspects prescribes rules pertaining to Japan, which is mainly with regard to different things, which they give emphasis. If these things are followed or respected, one will gain the city rightfully to what they seek, and they will gain it in abundance and even quicker. So we have, to regard Japan mainly to the regards of surroundings, posture. Surroundings, the place that you go. We talked about places just now. Posture, the way you sit. If you're kneeling, if you're sitting, most scriptures recommend sitting in that lotus position where most of us sit to doing meditation and so forth. And that places where, more or less, places again, where you go, near a river, near a pond, in a very secluded place where it's very peaceful, whatever. We look at the different times. We can look at we can look at Sandhya hour, which is in the morning as the sun is rising. You have the even Sandhya as the sun is about to set. You have those particular aspects. You have pronunciation. This is where we are talking about mantra sadhanas. This is where your guru will help you in pronunciation of the mantra. That you pronounce the Jaapam mantra or whatever in the way it's supposed to be pronounced, in the exact syllable, letter, everything, that you do not, because of a slight mishap, that you don't make a mistake and do harm. Because if you cannot pronounce a particular bead or a particular wording in the mantra, you can do harm. You can do more harm than good, right? Especially where your mind is concerned. You can do harm to yourself. You could do harm to somebody else, depending on what you're doing. The Japan Pro. So you have that. You have the number of repetitions. Yes, I have. We know a lot of people may do just a few, and other people go for length and doing many different rounds of Japan, many different rounds of Japan, and so forth. So you have that aspect. So knowing how much to do at any given time is also um, a precautionary measure also, right? And how to keep count. You have seat. We talk about asanas just now. We talk about pace, to go fast or slow. We have state of mind, how focusing on to what it is you're looking at, what it is you're looking for. Reflection and concentration, right? To what it is you're doing the job for. Geographical directions, what directions also you're facing. If you're facing north, south, east, west, if you're facing northeast, southwest, right, there are different directions. It is not just sitting towards the east, it's not just sitting towards the north or so for that. Some scriptures will give you, they are different directions you can face. Because why? For example, if you're doing Japan for the Nagrahas, when we have different dosh from the Nagrahas, the pundit based on that particular dosh will tell you to face a different direction for that particular deity, that particular Nagraha, that particular planet. Face that direction, which is that direction that that particular Nagraha also for that planet governs, and say that to do the mantra, to do the api, to do the offering of the dar, the arg, and so forth, and to even do hawans and so forth. So you have that an aspect. Um, right, you have that seed, state of mind, reflection. You have the intent, then you have conduct and purity. So there are different aspects that one will have to take in consideration when doing. So Japam is not just grabbing a mala and just doing the repetition. It is a sadhana by itself. And once you treat it as a sadhana, you treat it as a devotion, as just how you would do a hawan and so forth, or of doing offerings, it has its merits. But if it is not given its reverence, it can have mal effects on you and your devotion that you do. It can destroy or hinder you or keep you back from getting where you need to go. So you have those things to consider also in that. Right? So besides that, right, so we're looking at that. Let us look at also, how to use how it is. So let us say you're using the middle finger, right? Many would tell you that you always start from the bead, which is right after the simaru, or right after the simaru bead. This one, and you pull the bead with each count and with each mantra, and you keep on going until you reach here, right? Till you reach the bead that is before, right? If I can show you properly, that one. Now, it is stated that one should not, that particular bead should not cross your finger. So what do you do? Right? There is something called rotation of the thing. What is first becomes last, what is last becomes. So there it is. You rotate the mala and you shift it. It's a little tedious to do, but you just rotate the mala in the best way you could. So the last beat becomes the first, and the first beat becomes the last. All right? And you continue. You continue. So the last mala becomes the first mala, and so you continue. You keep on for every round. You keep on doing that. So you have that particular way of doing when you're doing Japam, to rotate the mala, because they say you do not let the simaru bead or the menden bead cross over your fingers. Right? So let us go in now. I would like to go into that aspect. Let us go into this. Let us go into which one I'm going to go in here. This is actually, right. Let us go into the Kulanava Tantra, where we look at determination of fingers for offerings, libations, right, on the basis of the desire and fulfillment. And this is where we are in, where Mahadev in the form of Bhairava is talking to Ma or Devi in the form of Bhairavi. And he says, he says here, in captivation rituals, the thumb and the third finger. In charms, the thumb and the first finger, right, and so forth. In immobilization, the thumb and the little finger should be joined together in doing oblations, right, in doing oblations and so forth. So you have those fingers in doing oblations. Those are the same fingers also you can use for doing Japam, right? Let us go into the Dhamara Tantra, right? And the Dhamara Tantra, right, where there's this, where I'm going to go here. Did I pick the correct page? Okay, I believe this page doesn't have it. Oh, no, correction. Determination of fingers of in thing. In the rituals of Shantikam or use of Tarjan, right? The use of the finger, the Tarjan figure, the rituals and so forth. So this also tells you into doing oblations or the sort using the thumb and using the thumb and the one ring finger for doing oblations, to doing offerings into fire, into doing, if you're doing offering abhishekam and so forth, using the fingers to do, because they create different energies and so forth. It is stated that in this one that, you know, that Bhairava is the thumb and Bhairavi is the wedding ring finger, so both of them combined together, Shiva and Shakti in this aspect. In the Kalika Puran, it goes much more, and we're looking at chapter, I think it's chapter 54 or chapter 55, I believe, when it talks, this is the aspect where they're talking about performing the Balidan or offering the Mahabali to the Devi. It gives discourse of also doing Japam, where you take the mala, and the Kalika Puran takes says to take the mala and to worship the mala. That the mala is just not just beads and strings, it is also like a deity, it is also like a god. And you worship the mala, you pay obeisance to the mala, you give reverence to the mala, and you seek the darshan of the mala, because why? It is a representation of God also. That with the use of the mala, that you can gain, you can more or less complete your sadhana, you can gain the siddhi, you can gain the darshan that you seek, and so forth. So that is, it tells you by offering water, to offering sindru, saffron, to offering different, offering, sandalwood, to offering perfume and this sort to the mala, as though you were offering a deity. You're offering Ma or Mahadev or Masters in them. You treat the mala in the same reverence before you use it. And there it is, you're able, then you go about your doing your sat and doing your Jaapam. Now, doing this research, I had conversations with a lot of individuals about doing Jaapam, and a lot of people had asked me questions about, what they were telling me, in fact, if they were not, they were asked and they were saying that if they didn't have a guru and so forth, because most aspects of worship will talk about a guru, and guru giving you a diksha or more or less that mantra and so forth, or when you're more or less you're Christian, you have a guru that gives you a guru mantra. What do you do? So those who are gurus will have a guru mantra that you can use with the mala before. So you will hold the mala to your forehead and you will recite your guru mantra 3 times, and then you will start your japam. Well, most people are asking, well, if you don't have a guru, what do you do? Um, okay. If you don't have that, you think of your ish devta. Your ish devta is the one who comes to your mind more frequent, the one that you're very much fond of, and so forth. So you have that aspect. If you're not necessarily connected into to a particular deity, or let's say devi or devta, right? You can use based on if you're into Shakti, if you're into Vishnu worship, or you look at the primary deity. So if you're into Vishnava, you have Lord Krishna, you have Lord Hari, you have Lord Vishnu, Lord Hanuman. If you're into Devi, you have Durga Mata, you have Kali Mata, Bhadra Kali Mata, you have Mahadev himself. Shiva, it would be that aspect of Lord Shiva also. So if you are not necessarily akin or connected or drawn to a particular deity, you can use any particular one, right? You can use that presiding deity or that deity that you're going to perform Japam on. So if you're going to perform Japam for Ganapati Baba, you can use Ganapati mantra, Om Gam Ganapati Yanama, say it 3 times, holy melody, and then you do the Japam. So yes, there are some pros, there are some cons, but it can be done. It can be done, and you can be able to gain your city, right? Those who have their gurus and be able to identify the ish data would have a little more leeway than others, but it doesn't mean that if you do not have a guru and a guru mantra, that you are not attracted to a particular data as your ish data, well, that you cannot perform Japam. You can perform Japam and you can gain the same aspect of city or darshan as anyone else. You are not less of a person. You can do it. It may be a little more tedious, but you can do it also. And not because someone has a guru mantra or has an issue that means that they have a free pass at a certain level. No, because you may have none of those, and you are able to achieve more city, more darshan than one who has been gifted or been able to have a guru and a guru mantra and so forth. So you can do that in particular also, right? While we're on that, let's have a look at some do's and don'ts. Now, different scriptures will talk about when you're obtaining a mala, you obtain a mala that is practical. What does that mean? You obtain a mala that it is easy for you to pull or utilize. It is not tedious, too big, too small, whatever that is hard and difficult to pull or push in this aspect, however you're doing whatever you're using, how you're doing in Japan. So you find that. Two, you don't get a mala that is exceedingly long. So if you're sitting up to a point in that lotus position, that if you're sitting and the mala is too long, it is not dangling between your legs and so forth, and so on, in between your private parts, whatever, right? If for some odd reason you're using a smaller mala, but for a lengthy period of time you're doing Japam, and you know that your hand is going to drop over there because you're holding it up for a certain amount of time. Some people might hold it to the chest, somebody hold it right in front of them, and you know for that period your hand is going to fall a few inches, and because of the length of the mala, it will dangle more. It will fall a little. It will fall beneath your level, below your navel. It is recommended by most sages and pundits and so forth, that you get a cloth, let's say a towel or a sheet that has not been used. You never use it for your bed, you never bathe, you never wipe your skin with it, whatever. Clean, you just bought it straight from the store, it's still in plastic. You use that alone for that, and you fold it 2 or 3 times for the thickness, spread across your pelvic area, across your legs, and you do a safe job. The mala is full, is on cloth, on thick cloth that is not being disrespected on. As I said again, the mala is a representation of man them, of masters and them, or whatever particular deity or deities that you are going to perpetuate by doing Japam. So by showing reverence to the mala in that aspect, you have it. One would recommend also, do not use the mala when you are consuming tamasic items, be it meat, fish, alcohol. Also, when you are more or less, you do not wear it if you're interacting with your other half. I will say it, I will go to that extent. I will not go in more detail. That should be self-explained there. Right? You have that. One would also explain where my sisters are concerned. When it's that time in a month, you do not wear, because many will consider, and as some will consider, that that's an unclean state in that aspect. Your body is cleansing itself, whatever, so you do not wear that mallet. You have that also, right? One will also advise, there are those who will also advise that you do not keep your mala in your bedroom. Your bedroom might be your personal space where when you go to have your shower when you come back, you're changing your clothes. I know that's a little difficult for some people because of how they live, because some people may live in a studio where everything is partly in. But so if you have to keep your mala where you please keep it, you know, in a hidden area. So you might have it wrapped in cloth. Some people might say you mean don't wrap it in cloth. But if it has to do with you living in a studio apartment, and you can't because it's one big room and you're trying your best to maintain a certain reverence, you can take your mala, wrap it in any color cloth, it doesn't matter, wrap it in any color cloth and place it in a drawer that no other garments or whatever is in that drawer, or rest it in a bin that is on a shelf that is not with anything else, that it is secluded from a lot of things, and you can keep it there until you have to use it. So in short, you try your best to give reverence and respect to the mala in that aspect also. So these are the little do's and don'ts that when choosing a mala or when you have a mala, how to give. So I hope that this particular video, this session that I did here and this one on Jaapam and malas was very educational. I hope it would aid you and help you in what you're doing, what you have been doing before, and so forth. If you have to make some amends, I hope that I was beneficial in helping you for what amends you may make, and so forth and such. So I just want to thank everyone for allowing me once more to be able to do this particular video. I have other videos. I want to do videos on Howans. I want to do some temple talk videos also, discussing things like garments and certain things that people may see or coming into a kuvil, coming to a temple or an ashram, and they see certain things within Shakti worship also, and they don't understand it. They see things being done or whatever, and they don't understand why this is being done and what's the significance and so forth. So I want to be able to do simple temple talks videos, 10 minutes for the most or so, to explain little things like the wearing of garments, waist tie, head tie, and so forth. The use of what is a power tara, the use of power tara, if the pundit or when the head pujari goes to the front and he's sprinkling water in front of the gateway to the temple and using camphor and a coconut there, what is the significance of that and so forth. So explaining those little things that one may not understand fully or have no idea about. So when they do, they can give reverence and they understand. So they could be also be a part of it and not to feel like an outsider when these rituals are these things are being done or not understanding why it is being done. So I want to do that. So I want to thank you so very much for this opportunity. I hope this video was very informative. And by the grace of Ma, I will be doing much more videos as best as I could. So Vanakam, Namaste, or Sitaram, Jai Sitaram, right, and good night.